me, who are you? Excuse me, who are you? Excuse me, who are you? Excuse me, excuse me, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
This one line encapsulates what this entire movie is. That big question as to who are you? I feel like in this day and age, that question is more prevalent than it's ever been. This movie was actually made in 1997, and the parallels to today's world is really ominous. We live in a world dominated by persona. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, social media, video games. Everyone has some sort of persona or even a multitude of persona. This movie takes that and then asks the question, are you the persona that you created, or are you someone else? This movie hits so hard for me on so many different levels, you know, just being a YouTuber and being in that realm. And I'm sure many people out there watching this today will have the same type of experience. What happens when you leave that persona behind? What happens when that persona itself takes on a life of its own? And that's not the only topic this movie covers. It goes over a slew of different things. If you look at it in a different light, this movie could just be a commentary on how deplorable the film industry is and how they treat actors and actresses. It's also a commentary on stalkers and superfans, or what we would call them in today's world, stans. People who idolize this persona so much that it actually becomes who they are. It is their personality. And anytime that perfect persona is broken and the real person comes out, they don't like that. This is something we see more and more every single day. We hear so many cases of people being parasocial to the point that it becomes a concern. People getting stalked, and on some extreme cases, some people even getting killed. I feel like this movie portrays that paranoia that you get when someone's stalking you so well. People don't really think about the torturous nature of someone stalking you, all in the obsession over this persona that you created. Because in the viewer's eyes, this persona is real to them. They know this persona. That really begs the question, what makes someone real or something real? If a persona is beloved by so many, does that not make it real? Even a better question, does that make it even more real than you? There's so much going on in this movie. It's truly hard to pin down just one specific thing, but that's what I love about this movie. It's truly up for interpretation. But me personally, I really want to focus on the main character's internal dilemma that we have throughout this. Dealing with leaving behind a persona and what happens whenever a persona takes on the life of its own. It's an examination of alienation, fame, and identity. So without further ado, this movie follows Mima, who is a pop idol, a part of a music group called Cham. We see a large amount of superfans, or what we like to call stans in today's world. All of these people that are hypnotized by Cham, the persona. The cinematography in this movie is so good. During her performance, we get kind of a back and forth between her persona on stage and then her real life, you know, her going grocery shopping, her on the subway, her talking to her agents about her future in her career. And another part I like is the heavy focus on cameras and all of the cameras in the audience taking pictures and recording this persona on stage. And then we see this scary man, this weird, ugly, creepy dude. Let's just call him the Reddit moderator. And this shot is so chilling once you understand what is to come as he holds her in the palm of his hand. So there's this little group of losers that were just throwing trash on the stage, and the Reddit moderator didn't like that. So the Reddit moderator goes over there and kind of just goes, stop it, stop. And then they start beating him up. So Mima yells at everyone to stop, gives a little smile to the Reddit moderator, and in the world, in the mind of a Reddit moderator, you know, he thinks that he's in. She smiled at me. That means she loves me. But Mima tells everyone that she's gonna end her career with Cham because she decided to pursue a career in acting, but it wasn't really her that decided this. It was actually her agent, Tadakoro. Tadakoro and Remy are both her agents. Remy's kind of the one that's like, hey, she wanted to do this. This was her dream. She wanted to be a singer, but Todoroko's like, hey, no, money, 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 money. Money. Mima, believing that this is going to be better for her career, decides to leave Cham and go into an acting career. And Remy was heavily against that. She was protesting the whole time because she herself actually used to be a pop idol who went through a similar situation. She ended up leaving the pop idol life to become an actor, and it didn't work out for her. Now she's an agent for a pop idol. And also Remy realizes how absolutely corrupt and deplorable the film industry can be, and we're about to witness.
I'm always watching Mima's Room!
This part gave me chills, and it gives me chills every time I watch it. And now, I don't know if it's just because I've dealt with this, that paranoia that someone's watching me, because, you know, people used to know where I lived, and it was genuinely terrifying sometimes. That feeling of being watched, and then knowing that people outside know what you do and know your persona, it's scary. So she goes to her room and takes down her Cham poster to begin her new life as an actress. She opens some fan mail, and it makes things even worse. It says, "I always like looking into Mima's room. I put up a link to Mima's room." And to make matters worse, she even gets a call with silence on the other end, and then a fax. And this fax says, "Traitor," over and over. So obviously we can tell that someone's watching her, but it isn't as it seems. So she gets her first acting job, and she gets one line. And it's very fitting for this movie that that one line is just, "Who are you?" And you just see Mima repeating that over and over to herself. And obviously on the surface, this is just her reciting it over and over so she doesn't forget her line. But in the movie perspective, this is a statement. This is an actual question about the entirety of the movie and what's about to happen. Remy then explains the letter to Mima because Mima didn't understand what a link was because it's 1997. She didn't have a computer. The director hands Tadakoro fan mail for Mima. He opens it and it explodes in his hand. And a piece of the letter falls on the ground and it says, "Warning, the next one will be real." After this incident, Remy shows Mima how to use a computer and to get to the website. As Mima starts looking through this website, it's documenting every little step of her day. At first, she kind of laughs it off like, "Oh, you know, this is kind of funny. It's weird that people know this, but whatever." And it started getting weird to the point that they knew exactly what she bought at the grocery store that day, which foot she stepped off on the train with, and even knowing the exact line that she was going to say in the show. And again, that one line starts repeating over and over.
Excuse me, who are you? Excuse me, who are you? Excuse me, who are you?
The use of the color red in this movie is so good. I didn't notice it too much the first watch through, but the second watch through, every single time her sanity starts kind of descending further and further, the color red starts appearing. And right here is the beginning to this hellish descent. After both of her agents review the 3 shots that she was in the show, Remy starts questioning it again, saying this isn't really worth it, she should just go back to Cham and become a pop idol. And again, Todokoro says they don't make enough money and keeps pushing for her to act. And right when they were having this conversation, Cham comes into the room and shows them that they actually hit the top 100 charts, which is the first time they've ever done that. And it's without Mima. And this is where the paranoia truly starts setting in with Mima. As she's walking out of the train, she automatically goes to that thing that she read on that website. She stops herself from getting off the train with the right foot and then starts running out of a panic. You know, we hear streamers, YouTubers, other people talk about being stalked, but no one really thinks about it. No one thinks about how deep it goes, the mental torture that people go through. So throughout the movie, we consistently see the creepy dude from the beginning, just every once in a while in the background. Right here is where it really starts to sink in that this Reddit moderator, he might be doing something a little bit more sinister. She gets into an elevator and on the wall, there's a newspaper clip that shows a hit and run of that man who is beating him up at the show. The man who was throwing trash on the stage. She turns to see the Reddit moderator grinning, implying that he was the one who ran him over. And he was the one who posted that newspaper clip on the elevator so she would see it. So Mima goes into her agency and discovers that Cham hit the charts. And even hears them saying that they're better off a duo, which obviously is a pretty big hit to Mima. And there's one quick little scene that I feel like is underrated because we hear them talking in the other room about hitting the top charts, but Mima is there. Mima is with the three and they're chatting with each other until Remy grabs her shoulder and then it transitions back to her being out of the room, just showing that inside she truly wants to be a part of Cham, but it's not how it is. Writer of the show that Mima was in was told to give Mima more lines and be more a part of the show, you know, since she's a pop idol, she's trying to become an actress. And so he decides to write her in a scene. And obviously, once again, Remy is heavily against this idea, but Tadakoro says this will be good for her career. And Mima decides to do it because she believes that this is just a hurdle she has to overcome to become a real actress. At least that's what she told them. It does show how awful the film industry is and how terrible some of the things that these actors and actresses go through in order for them to make it big. Because a lot of people don't treat actors and actresses like humans. There are many different cases of torturous environments that they've been in just to get a specific shot. And this next scene was probably one of the hardest scenes to watch in this movie. I actually had to look away through it. Even Tadakoro, the man who pushed for her to be in this scene, was even unsettled by this. And I feel like what makes this scene so torturous is, yes, sure, she isn't actually getting, but the idea of getting groped by all of these men, acting out, getting, and then having to repeat it over and over. They had to switch different camera angles. They had to redo the scene a couple times. The mental strain that would come with this is ridiculous. Honestly, would feel like you actually did get. And this is where her mental sanity truly starts spiraling. Because during this said scene, we see her lay her head back and imagine her being back on stage with Cham. Being a place where she's Mimarin, the pop idol. She gets in the car with Tadakoro and acts completely natural. She even gets into her apartment and acts normal until she notices that her fish are dead. And this is where she starts breaking down and says, of course I didn't want to do this. She just felt bad for saying no to them because they got her this far. And this is where we first see the Mimarin persona actually manifest. She sees her in the reflection and panics. And then at the end of the scene, we actually get a camera shot showing that her fish are actually completely fine, showing that her descent into madness is getting even more deep. And then we find out that the person behind Mima's room is none other than the Reddit moderator who's known as Mr. Mimania. And this is where the persona truly starts taking on a life of its own. Because a lot of people believe that this web page is actually Mima typing. So he says things like, I don't want to be an actor, I still want to be a pop idol, they're forcing me to do this stuff. But Mima isn't actually saying these. And it gets even worse when Mima herself starts obsessing over this webpage, looking over it every single day, asking questions like, what was your day like? Talking to this webpage as if it's just another person. This page even started emailing different fans as the real Mima. But that begs the question, who is the real Mima? And that question rings true as her persona manifests and actually comes out to face her and tell her that she's the real Mima, calling her the fake Mima. And then comes, honestly, one of the creepiest deaths in this movie. The man who wrote the rape scene hears the distant sound of a Cham song.
Huh?
Mima then does a photo shoot with this guy, and apparently this dude is very good at getting women to take off their clothes for a photo shoot, which is what happens. It gradually devolves into a nude photo shoot. And it starts to get really confusing because on Mima's page, it actually said that Mima was going to be on stage with Cham, which obviously makes no sense, but lo and behold, she's there. She's there on stage. Everyone is cheering, but both of the Cham girls look quite concerned and almost disturbed. So after Mimania sees her on stage and also sees that she posed for a naked photo shoot, the persona of Mimarin tells Mimania that he needs to get rid of the fake Mima, because this fake Mima is tarnishing her reputation. This is where the movie starts getting very confusing. Mima starts seeing visions of Mr. Mimania, or maybe they are real. It's not really clear whether they are real or it's her paranoia talk. She sees her friends of Cham on the podcast and also sees the illusion of Mimarin, or is it illusion, sitting with them on the podcast. She ends up chasing after Mimarin, the persona, only to get run over by Mimania, but that was just a dream. She wakes up and talks to Remy, and it transitions to a scene that she was recording for a show. Then she wakes up in her bed, again, talks to Remy. She realized her sanity was slipping, so in order to make sure that what was happening right now was real, she broke her mug and made herself bleed, questioning herself that, is this blood real? Right now, she's suffering from heavy disassociation. She's not sure what's real and what's fake. So Mima starts obsessing over the website. Because she's suffering from this disassociation, she's using it as a way to try to figure out what she's been doing, because she believes that what is happening on this website is what she's been doing. So she just starts believing that all of this stuff on this webpage are things that she did herself, saying things like, oh, I guess I went grocery shopping today, didn't know that. So then this guy orders pizza.
Sir, don't forget your side.
Well, I didn't order any side. Oh.
Oh wait, that's Mima. That's Mima stabbing the guy. Uh-oh. She wakes up in her room and hears about the death of the man who did the nude photo shoot of her. And then she ends up finding bloody clothes in her closet. So she starts to panic even more, believing that she was the one who killed him. And throughout all of these manic episodes, this disassociation and confusion, we bounce back and forth between her being a part of this show that she's in. And it's really interesting because this show is actually explaining what's happening to her. And one important line that keeps showing up in this show is, there's no way illusions can come to life, which is the last thing that someone says to her before she has to face Mimania, who attempts to rape and murder Mima, all for the sake of keeping Mimarin the idol alive and getting rid of the fake Mima. But Mima miraculously ends up knocking him out. And as she's staring over this body, breathing heavily, it transitions to a scene that she actually recorded in this show. Everything that is happening with Mimania is just paralleled with what's happening in this show. It really starts to make you question what's happening for real and what's happening just in this show, and she's just fantasizing this stuff. And I feel like the name Mimania was chosen on purpose because, you know, she was in a state of mania. So Remy ends up finding her in the hallway, you know, panicked and scared. And so she takes her to see the body of Mimania, which the body's gone. So again, that begs the question, was what happened actually real? Or was all of that just replaying the scene that she had to record for the show, and also the murder scene that she had to record for the show? So this movie does so good at just one-liners that give you chills, because with one line, this movie kind of cleared up almost everything. Not everything, because there's not really much clear about this movie, but it cleared up a lot. Because on the way back home, Mima's falling asleep, and Remy says that she will take her back to Mima's room.
We're going back to Mima's room.
She didn't say that she'd take her to her apartment. She said that she'd take her back to Mima's room. However, this looks exactly like Mima's room at the beginning of the movie. With the Cham poster on the wall, everything's a little bit more organized. She ends up calling Tadakoro to tell him what happened, and it looks like Tadakoro and Mimania are both dead next to each other. And after Mima starts looking around the room and starts realizing that this room isn't her room, but a perfect replica. And then Remy walks in, dressed exactly like Mima, and talking exactly like Mimarin. See, Remy, who used to be a pop idol, suffered from dissociative personality disorder. Because of these parallels with Remy and Mima's career, she took up this Mima persona, and it kind of possessed her. It kind of became her. So that means she was the one who killed everyone, and she was also the one who was on stage that day. And she was the one manipulating Mimania to, you know, kill Mima. And that also explains why this Mima's room knew everything about Mima's day, knew exactly where she was going, knew what she was wearing, knew what lines she was saying, because Remy was there all the time. And this scene is so goddamn horrific while at the same time symbolic, as Remy, who believes that she is Mimarin, chases around Mima and tries to kill her to get rid of the fake Mima. I feel like this whole scene right here just shows how hard it is for people to escape from their persona, for people to move on from one persona to a different career. They're constantly running away from their past persona that just keeps chasing them. I mean, a lot of people in the world suffer from mental issues because of a persona they have. I mean, just look at celebrities who tried to move on to different careers, or maybe change their career, or just do different things. A lot of times they can't escape what they were. Like, some actors end up just being known for one role and can just never escape from that one role, that one persona. This goes for actors, musicians, YouTubers, anybody who has a persona. But in the end, Mima was able to get away from Remy by knocking off her wig, and then Remy starts panicking. She goes to grab her wig and then ends up stabbing herself with a broken shard of glass. And as Mima, or Remy, is about to get hit by a truck because she believes that these headlights are actually just the stage, Mima actually tackles her and ends up saving her life. So in the end of the movie, it's kind of a complete mindfuck. You think everything's solved, right? Because Remy survives, she's in mental care for dissociative identity disorder, and Mima comes to see her. And the last line of the movie is where things get confusing, because she says, "I'm real," or in the English dub, she says, "I'm the real deal." But the messed up part about this is it's not Mima's voice that's doing this. It's Remy's voice that says this. This movie is so good, and I feel like it's so important to the world today, with loads and loads of stalkers, stans, internet personalities, and identity crisis. We are dominated by what we want the world to see us as in the internet space, that it can completely demolish who we are as a person. So before we go, let me just ask you this question one more time. Who are you?